All right, so we are officially live. We're going to give a few minutes for this to get out onto the interwebs, and Fish and Wildlife is going to be sharing it out. So hello, everybody who's tuning in. We're very excited to have you all here, and thanks for your patience as we get started. Let's see here. We're very excited. It's going to be a fun Vermont Wild Kitchen today, and all right. All right. Cool. So, hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Vermont Wild Kitchen. My name is Shane Rogers. I am the Farm to Plate Communications Manager at the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, and I run the Rooted in Vermont campaign. And the Vermont Wild Kitchen is a collaboration between Rooted in Vermont and Vermont Fish and Wildlife, where we are coming into people's homes of amateur cooks who are cooking up some great wild food and some great farm fresh food that is abundantly available here in Vermont. And we are very lucky today to be joined by two wonderful people. We have Elizabeth Lee, who is joining us from New York, but she is the Director of Education and Interpretation at the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. She is also a Let's Go Fishing volunteer and is an official guide in New York State for fishing. And then we also have Rachel Field joining us, who is a farmer at Mission Farm and her own homestead in Hartberry Hollow, and she's also a pastor at St. Thomas and Grace Church. So for today, we have a great menu getting prepared for you all. We're going to be showing you how to clean some perch and cook them whole, and then we're also going to be showing you a wonderful butternut squash gratin. And from there, I'm going to throw it over to Elizabeth Lee, who is going to dive into some perch cooking. So, Elizabeth, please.
Sounds great. Hi, everybody. I am going to cook some perch today. So, because I haven't been ice fishing this season, I picked up some perch from Norm's on the Bridge Road in Crown Point on the New York side. But the fish were caught near Port Henry. They don't care whether it's Vermont or New York, so it tastes great. And what I have is, I'm going to clean these guys. They're going to look like this when I'm done cleaning them. And they're going to look like this when they're ready to eat. So it's going to be a little tricky showing you the cleaning process, but I'll do my best. So you're going to start, the important things to remember about cleaning fish, if you don't do this very often, is that you got to have a sharp knife. Never push really hard on a sharp knife when you're cleaning a fish because they're slippery. You don't want to jab your hand. And go slowly. Just go slowly. I'll tell you, a lot of my family eats perch. They can do this in 5 seconds flat. I'm going to try and go slowly so that you can see the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick my knife in and cut from, well, here, what I'll do first, I'll stick my knife, I'm going to cut right behind the gills, and I'll show you as I go. I'll spare you a little bit of the guts, but you're going to and cut back almost the whole head off, and then you're going to get a little bit of the guts coming out, that's fine, and then you're going to flip it over and put your knife in the belly and slide your knife right down the belly of the fish, and so you got to get through that skin, which is a little bit hard, and you're just going to cut right all the way back to the tail. So this is a part that's a little hard for you to see, sorry. Tell me, Shane, if you can see that.
That's okay. I think you're describing it well. Where did you learn to do this, Elizabeth?
My family's eaten perch my whole life, and actually my cousin Dave Ware Sr., who's 88 years old, who I talked to on the phone last night, said he wished he could be here. He's the one who taught me how to
Oh, that's wonderful.
So what you're going to do is you're going to wind up with a head and some guts, and you can split it open, just clean all those guts right out, and then you're going to turn it over. With the point of your knife, you're going to follow right alongside down that dorsal spine, and on one side of that dorsal fin, and then right along the other side of that dorsal fin, just sticking your knife right along. That's why you got to have a sharp knife. You want to slide it right along the edge of that dorsal fin, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off that skin. I'm going to peel with my right hand, and I'm going to slide the thumb of my left hand right alongside it, and just pulling back, it should peel right all the way back to the tail. And I'm going to do that on the other side. And same thing, I'm just going to peel the skin back, slide my thumb right inside it so it comes off nice and clean. These are nice fresh fish, so it's coming off nice and easy. And again, you're going to want to watch out for the spines on the dorsal fin. I'm going to turn it back over and cut off the little fin on the anal fin on the bottom. And then I'm going to pull that whole dorsal fin off. And it should, if you slide your knife right under, it should slide right back off. Nice and easy. And looks like I left a little bit here by the tail. Some people cut off the tail, but some people like to eat it because it's kind of nice and crispy. So that's
you can eat the tail?
Sure.
No way. That's cool.
And I'm just going to get that last little bit of skin off in front of the tail. So that's the cleaning process. Hang on, I'm going to just give it a rinse just a sec. Also, one little piece also is there is like a little skin inside there. It's actually the lining of the cavity, and so you want to just pop that and open it up. And again, I'm going to give that another little rinse. You want to just make sure that all that's rinsed out. Okay. So you can dry it off if you want to. I just left these guys on the plate. What you don't want is paper towel on your fish, but it does work a little bit better if you dry it for the next step. So rather than do this next fish, I'm going to go ahead and show you the next step.
And where do you go fishing usually in the winter, Elizabeth? Or are you out there ice fishing, or do you work with anybody who does?
Actually, no, to tell you the truth, Shane, you got it a little bit wrong. I don't mostly guide for fishing. I mostly guide for hiking and paddling.
Oh, my bad.
Mostly I fish in the summer, but because I like perch, it's great. You can get perch. Perch are an abundant local fish. And I was actually surprised. These guys, I don't know the guys who caught these because I got them from Norm's, but they're really nice, robust, healthy fish, and actually, really, I don't know how much they weigh, but they're nice. I've probably got the cleaned. They're a good 8 inches, which is a nice size fish.
That's amazing. And for folks who are not sure about ice fishing, or they haven't gone before, they don't have a license here in Vermont, we do have free ice fishing day coming up on January 31st. So anybody without a license can go out. And also Vermont Fish and Wildlife is running their educational patrol. So you can find game wardens out on the ice. So you can ask all the questions that you can imagine. And there's the schedule that we're dropping into the comments right now too.
There's been, whenever I've never run into guys that were fishing that didn't want to tell you about what they're catching. So
that is so true.
And actually some guys that were out last weekend I saw with about a 24-inch lake trout. It's pretty amazing.
That's amazing.
So the next step for my process is I've got a little mix of egg and milk. So I've got here 2 eggs and about 1/3 of a cup of milk. It's basically like you're making scrambled eggs. And you want to just turn it over in that. And then right here is just some cornmeal. And I like mine a little kind of crispy, so I'm using a kind of a coarser cornmeal, and I'm just going to coat it and get it to stick to that egg milk mix. And then in the skillet, the traditional way is to use a piece of salt pork. Salt pork's not that easy to find anymore, though. So today I'm using a little bit of lard.
Oh, nice. Lard's not a bad substitute, though. That sounds pretty good.
Actually, it's from a friend of mine who's a butcher, and he makes it, so it's pretty local. And actually, I do have cornmeal from that's local from my farm share, which you can use, but it's very fine, and it just makes a different texture on the final fried fish. So I'm going to go ahead and put these guys in the pan. Just turn them over. Pretty basic. And I cook them on medium-high, about 5 minutes aside. The way that you can tell it's done is the flesh turns really white. And you're not going to see that because it has obviously got the cornmeal on it. But you can tell by looking on the inside. If you look into that cavity, you'll be able to tell the backbone that is inside that you can see really easily inside that cavity is going to have white flesh all around it.
Awesome. And we have someone in the comments, Eric, saying that he saw salt pork at Shaw's the last time he checked. So anybody who's looking for it might be able to check Shaw's, but also your local butchers or your local farmers looking for lard or anything along those lines. You know how neighbors can be so friendly as well.
Yes, for sure. And to like I say, the traditional way that my family cooks is with salt pork. And my family eats perch for breakfast. So that's how we do. You can eat it any time of day. It goes with anything. But there's nothing like a batch of perch for breakfast. And I don't know. Everybody's a little different as to how much you like. But most people could eat easily 3 perch per person because they're not that big, and especially if you have small ones. And it's just what you catch. They do keep okay. So if you clean them and put them in the fridge, you can wait till you have enough for a group. They keep pretty well. They freeze pretty well too. They freeze pretty well frozen. I mean, clean, and then they'll keep for a little bit. And like I say, my family eats them for breakfast. You can have them with toast or with some home fries. And some people put mayonnaise on them. That's just what you like, whatever you like with your fish.
I grew up around Lake Erie, and perch was such a huge summer meal as well. But we always had them on sandwiches and in tacos and all types of mayonnaise and slaw and really anything you can imagine putting it with. It goes so well.
Yeah, I love fish tacos. Fish tacos in a white corn tortilla, really, really good. Really good. All right, I'm going to just rinse my hands. I'm going to turn these guys over. And if you want to, Rachel, if you want to start what you're doing, I'll let these guys just cook for a couple minutes. And then the other thing I want to show you, which is when you eat them, there are bones that you have to be really careful of. And you want to cut those off. And as is true whenever you're eating any kind of fish, you got to be careful. They have a lot of little small bones. And that's why some people don't like to cook them like this, why they like to fillet them. But this is how my family does.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And we'll definitely come back when those are all nice and fried up. Rachel, are you ready to kick it off?
Yeah, I'm super excited. And I have to say, when I heard Elizabeth was making like a fried up fish, I thought, ooh, I better make chips, because fish and chips, my family's from England, and fish and chips is just like all that fatty, vinegary. But I went with butternut squash because at this time of year, pretty much what I have is a lot of butternut squash, and I always am drowning in dairy because we brought a dairy cow home this summer, and she produces between 3 and 6 gallons of milk every day. So that means I'm always doing some things to try to figure out how to use milk. So my husband and I make ricotta and mozzarella and butter and sour cream and cream cheese and yogurt, and clotted cream for scones, all that kind of stuff. So.
And you also have a raw milk share, don't you?
We do. We invite folks if they want to participate with us in loving our cow, to pick up a milking from one day of the week for $20 for a share, and that's whatever milk she produced that day. So it's at this time of year, it's usually between 2.5 and 3 gallons. And then you just bring a container and take it home, and I think we have one spot left. So she just has so much milk that we always have more room for sharing it.
And where are you located, Rachel?
I'm in Roxbury, Vermont. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're right off exit 5, and kind of between Northfield and Randolph, which is a nice little area of hills over here. So I just popped in a little bit of butter into my pan, and I'm just going to melt that a bit. And as that's melting, I'm going to throw in some flour, and I'm going to add all my spices, my thyme and sage and pepper. I'm going to do a little bit of onion powder and a little bit of nutmeg just to round out the flavor. And this is the base for the bechamel sauce. So the butternut squash gratin has basically 4 components that I like to use. And it's a little different from the recipe I sent you, Shane. The one I use is in a cookbook that my mother gave me called Vegetarian Cooking for Everyone. And I've made it my mission to put meat into as many of the recipes from that cookbook as possible.
I am sure folks will appreciate that.
Yeah. So this is her recipe, and she puts a lot of sage, and then we put caramelized onions in the bottom of the pan. So I'm basically going to build this layered dish with the caramelized onions, which I did yesterday because they take forever. Caramelized onions going first, then this bechamel will pour over top of the butternut squash, and then I'll put Gruyere cheese on top, and that'll go into the oven and bake for about half an hour. So.
Oh, that sounds heavenly, especially during the middle of winter and with all the winter squash still piled up somewhere in the house.
Yeah, it's like the first few months of fall, I'm like okay to eat just butternut squash, puree in soups, whatever. And by this time of year, I've still got so much of it, and I like need to do something else with it. I just can't like eat any more butternut squash. So this is when this comes out. So that's just gonna heat up a little bit, and I will.
We have Joey chiming in saying bacon on the veggie burger, which seems.
My God. Joey, I'm glad. Nice. That's epic. That makes me think of that Ron Swanson moment from Parks and Rec where he goes and asks for the vegetarian bacon and he just throws them directly in the trash. Please, another.
Yes, and then I also always think about him having the bacon everywhere, hidden around his office too.
Yes. There's a video that Lisa McCrory sent me from Lisa from Earthwise Farm and Forest in Bethel, and she's who we got our cow from. And the video is called Put Some Bacon on It. And it's like, goes through all these scenarios, no matter what happens in your life, just put bacon on it. It'll be fine. And it's
we're going to have to try to find that. It always works.
Yeah. So I've got my flour. I like to let that cook down for a minute, just until it starts, the flour and the butter really become friends and start to look a little puffy. And I start to smell the spices. That's when I know, like, everything's happy and getting along together. And then I'm just going to add 2 cups of milk. When it looks right, 2 cups of milk. I
think that's the best part about cooking at home is that you can do what works best for you. If you want a more runny sauce, add a little bit more. Or if you want it a little bit thicker, go ahead and add less or add a little bit more flour too.
Totally. And I think I do more baking because my husband, he's French, So I let him do a lot of the cooking because he's very French about it. And it always ends up being worth the wait. But I love cooking because I feel like I can just really experiment and play and throw stuff around, where baking I have to be a little bit more practice too. But I like the freedom of just throwing stuff in a pot.
Yeah, I think that's where my preference lies too. My partner loves to bake, and I just let her have run in the kitchen during that time. But I'll cook the dinner anytime.
Nice. So this is just gonna sit and sort of on a pretty low temperature. I have a electric stove. I keep it between the 2 and the 4 mark, just so it's not, I don't want it really boiling over. I don't want to scald the milk, but I want it to start thickening up and really getting to that nice, kind of like headed toward a Greek yogurt consistency. Like I really want this sauce to thicken up pretty well. And then I'll pour that over my butternut squash and my caramelized onions. So I'll start by getting that pan ready. And I'll just take as many onions as you want. We're kind of rationing our onions because my calculations were a little bit off in how many onions we should have grown this year. So a bit light on the onions at the moment.
And I'm going to get Elizabeth, when you're ready, I just have you on mute, but just wave your hands and we can throw it back over to you too. And to the onions, I mean, they're still, oh, look at that. We're going to go over to Elizabeth real quick to see some of the fish while you get this. Oh, that looks so wonderful.
I'm laughing at your baking conversation too. I'm going to reveal the big reveal. But okay, so I'm a vegetarian, and about the only thing that I eat that is not vegetables, well, dairy, is fish. And it's this fish, and it's only this fish because I love this, because my family ate this for my whole life, and that's what I want to eat. But I think it's fun because I've never put bacon on in like 45 years. Just saying.
That's awesome.
Just saying.
That's awesome.
You don't even need it. Yeah, when you have all the perch and you have all the lovely vegetarian dishes, you don't even need it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think that's one of the best parts about the Vermont food system too, is we have all these wonderful wild ingredients and all these wonderful farm fresh ingredients that really do end up working for just about everyone's diet preference.
Yeah.
And you can always find something that's grown here, found here, or what have you, to really fit into what works best for you and your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no substitute for family traditions. They're hard to buck, and why bother? Because it's comfort. The tradition itself is just a comfort food.
Totally.
Definitely. And to Rachel's comment about finding onions, if folks are also having some difficulties maybe securing some local food during the winter months or rationing their onions, NOFA Vermont does keep a wonderful buy direct directory, and you can always find farmers that are still producing or still have a good storage that they're selling out throughout the winter. So I would definitely encourage people to look into that too.
Nice. Yeah. So Shane, I've just taken the little end of my butternut squash, and I use a peeler because it's such a thin skinned squash. I use a veggie peeler, and I'm taking a spoon and I'm just scooping the seeds into my bucket for my pig, because she is hopefully pregnant right now. So she needs all the extra love and protein that she can get. So I'm going to give her these butternut squash seeds. And then I'll chop this up and throw it into the casserole dish with the onions, and there we go.
I love that layering.
Yeah, it like melts down into the onions. It's really, it's so good.
I am very excited for this recipe. I've always lamented how there's not a squash cookbook out there, because squash is such a staple of this area during the winter. And like Rachel was saying, it's always soups and roasted squash, which is great. But sometimes you just need something a little bit more to get you through the months of January and February.
Yes. I wonder if Chief Don Stevens would have any squash recipes that might shake it up a bit.
I bet he would. And for folks who don't know Chief Don, he's the chief of the Mohegan band of the Coosac here in on the land that is known as Vermont. So about how long are you going to be putting that in the oven, Rachel?
Because these squash I haven't pre-cooked, I think this one will be in the oven a good 40 minutes. I did prep another one, and I pre-roasted the squash for that one, and that one really just needs to heat up and get the cheese bubbly and just have all the flavors meld. So that one might be more like 20-25 minutes in the oven.
Oh, that's wonderful. And how big are you cutting those squash pieces up?
Oh, good question. Just kind of bite-sized pieces, and maybe slightly on the larger end of bite size. I also have a tendency to try and fit everything I can in my mouth. My grandmother yells at me every Christmas, every Thanksgiving. You're not gonna put all that in your mouth. Yes, I am. So because they melt and soften a little bit in the oven.
Oh, that sounds so lovely.
Yeah.
And I love that tip too of if you have the time, roast some squash ahead of time. I'm sure you could throw it into a bag, even into a freezer, and pull this out and have a meal or at least a wonderful side dish ready in 20 minutes just by piling it on.
Totally. And it's great for leftover squash, along the same lines. If the night before you had roasted squash, the night after, want to like zhuzh it up a bit, make it a little fancy. Add some dairy to it, which is always, that's the goal over here anyway. Add some dairy to it.
Spoken like a true Vermonter. That's.
I can't argue with that.
I was with my family that when we moved here, Jonathan, he's from Burlington, but I'm from Philadelphia area. And when we moved here, within the first year, a cow just appeared. It's like, I think it just happens in Vermont. You move to Vermont and you get a cow. It's amazing.
It's the welcoming committee.
Yeah.
And would you say so one of the things that we do in our kitchen, or I guess I should say I do, probably to the torture of my partner at times, is I try to put all of the stuff that I can into our dishes. So would you be able to add beets and turnips and anything else into this, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, one of the things I love about this cookbook, Vegetarian Cooking for Everyone, which I feel like I'm sponsored by her or something, but this cookbook has changed my life. I love this cookbook. It's got 1,500 recipes, 1,500 recipes. It's so good. So she riffs on this gratin dish a lot. So she uses the same bechamel base that I'm making, and she'll do a golden gratin version where you put maybe squash, carrots, rutabaga, anything that's kind of bright, turnips, and just she'll slice those thinly and do the same process with them, pour the sauce over and then top with Gruyere. She has a great leek and turnip with blue cheese. It's just it really is a playful kind of dish where as long as the vegetables get along with each other, this is the same base I use for a pot pie. So if I'm going to make a veggie pot pie, I love putting beets in pot pie because it turns it this happy pink. So it's yeah.
That is one of my favorite. I think that's one of my favorite parts about putting beets into any dish is the color that it turns everything else.
Yes.
We're gonna put the Vegetarian Cooking for Everyone into the chat too if people are interested. And looking for that because it sounds like a wonderful cookbook. I know many people are always looking for new and exciting ideas.
It's really good.
I for sure am. I have to say that I don't have a cookbook to refer to for this because somebody taught me, but that would be an interesting thing to have for people who are learning to clean and cook fish, is to have, maybe there is one, I don't know. I say go check out the fishing days and go and ask the guys that are fishing to show you, because they'll do that. I'll put in a little plug too for at the Maritime Museum. We have a whole bunch of summer camps, and one of our most popular ones is called One and Only Fish Camp. And the kids make a different kind of fishing rod every day, or fish with a different kind of fishing method every day. And to do it online this year, but on Friday, we said Monday through Thursday online, and then Friday we took them safely distanced fishing. And it was really pretty fun. So those are actually going to be pay what you can this year. So if you know of kids that want to get started with fishing, we base a lot of it on what happens in the Let's Go Fishing program. And so shout out to Corey Hart for getting us started in Let's Go Fishing volunteering.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Wow.
And I just dropped the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum website in the comments, so anybody who's interested can find out more there. How does that taste, Rachel?
It needs more salt. That's a theme. That's a theme for me in the kitchen. It needs more salt. But I put a ton of sage in, so the sage is just making it feel really earthy. And I think butternut squash and sage might be one of my favorite flavor combinations of all time. Yeah, so it's working that. Oh yeah, that did it. That's better.
Awesome.
Yeah. I did bring this evening because this is just gonna sort of bubble away for probably another 20 minutes. And I do have a finished version that'll be ready to pop out of the oven in a minute. But I did save milk from this morning if there would be any interest in seeing how I skim cream and make our heavy cream and half and that kind of stuff. Or I'm open to just hanging out by the sauce.
Yeah, definitely show us. Definitely show us how you go how to process the milk.
Sure. Yeah. So we usually have at least a full one of these every day. When Jonathan brings it in a bucket, because he does most of our milking, I put it through this funnel, which has a metal filter. We do all our milking by hand. I don't know if it's the same process with the machine. For filtering after you milk by hand, we do this kind of deal. Put a paper filter in, dump the bucket through here, and that just pulls out any hair or little particles or anything. And he spends probably 15 or 20 minutes solid just loving on Mocha the cow and making sure she's clean, so that usually the filter has pretty much nothing on it. It's also a time that we can check for any stringiness in the milk, and we're looking for signs of any kind of mastitis. And if we see any of that, we also have a mastitis test that we do on the milk. If we see any of that, it just goes right to the pig. We're not going to mess with that. So if I'm doing like the daily milk share, or if I know I need to bottle up milk either for us or for people who are buying it by the half gallon or something, I'll just pour it right from here into half-gallon glass jars. But if I'm keeping it and I know I have all the milk I need, often what I'll do, is really easy, is just take a ladle and a container and just kind of float the ladle across the top of the milk. And that grabs up all that cream that rises to the top. And Mocha's a Jersey, so we usually get 6 cups of heavy cream a day. Wow. And then I pull all this heavy cream right off the top. And this one will probably end up being a half and half, because Jonathan likes that in his coffee. So I'll just keep pulling until I'll see a color change. The cream is like a yellowy and it's a thicker, and then the milk is a little more like whitish, almost a very pale green, which sounds weird, but yeah. So when I start seeing that color, I know I'm down into the milk, and I'm going to intentionally do that, so I end up with half and half instead of this heavy cream. And there we go. And then that 6 cups of cream or whatever, that can be sour cream, that can be butter, that can be clotted cream. Yeah. Just, yeah.
That is amazing. And you do that every day, Rachel?
I do. Yeah.
That was a lot of cream to go through.
Yeah.
I think I would be making a lot of ice cream personally.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I made sorry, Shane.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. No.
Yesterday I made a maple ice cream, and I left it a little bit soft, so it was almost like a maple creamy because I'm just missing maple creamy.
That is amazing. And I think too, it's such a good example of how much work actually goes into dairy, and like something that Vermonters pride themselves on every day. People have to work really hard to get some of those delicious foods that we see on our table. It's the same for all the wild foods too. The people who have to catch the fish, and when you're foraging the mushrooms or what have you. Lots of connections there to be drawn.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and we like the hand milking. It takes about, for like one cow. I'm not as familiar with conventional like large scale dairy, but for one cow it takes about the same amount of time as having a generator powered milker, because you then have to take it all apart and clean it all out. So it's more intensive because Jonathan's sitting with her every day for, half an hour milking her out, but he can keep a closer eye on how healthy she is, how her udders are doing. He can really just love on her teats and make sure they're happy and healthy and all that. And then because they're together, they develop that close relationship, and cows will actually give more milk if they like the person or people milking them. Because if you think about it, she's taking care of her baby calf. So you actually see an 8% increase in production if your cow enjoys being milked and being a part of the process, which I love. So
that is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so what? I'm talking about my cow. We'll be here all night because I love that cow. Mocha is honest. I love her.
So once that sauce is done cooking, what would the process be from there?
Yeah, so I would pour this sauce, because I think it's probably gonna take another 10 minutes to set up. So I pour the sauce right into this casserole dish, right on top of all my squash, and then I would grab about a cup of shredded Gruyere cheese and just crumble that on top, and that should look like big reveal moment. It'll come out looking like a bubbly beige.
Oh, yum!
Yeah,
I can smell it from here.
I wish we were all together and we could eat it together.
And I think that would go perfect too with that fried perch as well. Something crispy and salty with something creamy and just savory and delicious.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, and we got people saying that looks yummy.
Shay, you want me to show you about this? Make sure that I show you about these bones.
Yeah, definitely. That would be great.
Yeah, let me do that. So, I didn't think to get a plate first. Hang on. So, what I'm going to just do, it's really, really easy when you serve them. You can just, these guys are really nice and crispy. And you can stand them up, just cut right down the back. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to cut right down the back, and this one is cooked really nicely. It's just going to separate really nice and easily from that backbone. So I'm really not pressing hardly at all, and it's coming right off that backbone.
Oh, nice.
And so you're just gonna, you'll see there's a little row of bones along the edge, and you just want to cut those guys off. And just don't eat them. Just be careful of them. Also, you can see I'm gonna hold this guy up.
Yeah, do you want to hold it up to the camera?
Yeah. So what you can see is along so this is all the meat that I cut off. And there's a little row of bones that you're going to want to watch out for close down at the end. And then there, you'll see the rib cage. Whoops, sorry, my finger's in the way. You'll see this rib cage right here attached to the backbone. And it's really easy just to separate the meat from that and just, throw that away. And you can break off the tail. Nice and crispy.
Ooh.
Oh, that's awesome. It's like a little chip built right in.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Really good.
Oh,
And you can put salt and pepper on it. And actually, I didn't think of it, but you can scramble up the rest of the egg batter if you want to. Cook it up. Put a little scrambled egg with it for your breakfast with your toast.
especially if you're having breakfast. Yeah, that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And Rachel, did you have anything? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
No, I'm just going to remind, I don't have anything else, just a reminder, like, be careful with fish bones.
Yes. I mean, I know I've been stabbed a couple times trying to chop down on a fish bone, and it is very much not a pleasant feeling.
Yeah.
And Rachel, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, just bon appetit. It all looks really good.
Awesome. Well, folks, I just want to say thank you to Rachel and Elizabeth for bringing us into their kitchens this evening, for showing us some awesome midwinter meal that we can pull together pretty easily. And I think one of the best parts about this for me watching it, especially because I can't taste any of it, is seeing how easy this all is and really how well our Vermont wild food or our Vermont fresh food really goes together. And for those who have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section and we can respond. If you have ideas for our next episode, feel free to also drop those in the comment section. We're going to be running this every third Thursday of the month. So our next one is going to be Thursday, February 18th at 5 p.m. And again, Rachel and Elizabeth, thank you so much for participating and for showing off all the great things that you're cooking up and just kind of imparting your skills out into the world. Do you all have anything else you want to add before we end the broadcast?
No, really fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Just so much gratitude. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and for folks who are cooking up their own wild foods, please share it on Instagram or Facebook, and you can use the hashtag Rooted in Vermont or VT Wild Kitchen, and we're going to find it and share it out. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you in a month.